Bishop, you're back for another new series, looking very sharp today, my friend. How are you, Bishop Gaiters?
I am doing great, Jason. I was out of town for a couple of days and just excited to be back. And thank you so much for the complimenting. You look great as well, my friend, and really excited about tackling this brand new topic on this afternoon.
Absolutely. And I'm interested to hear about your out of town trip. We've heard about this track test and trace core that Mayor de Blasio wants to bring in. Were you accosted by any kind of medical Gestapo on your return to New York City?
No, not at all. Just this is the security is so crazy, Jason. I mean, so many layers of security, and it's a whole different world that what you and I are now living in because of the 9/11 catastrophe. So I was warned on the way back to New York City that I might be detained for 14 days.
Yeah.
And so thank God that I was not detained. So yeah, I'm heading to Los Angeles in a couple of weeks, where my staff and I we're going to do a series of live shows. So hopefully we won't
Wow.
run into that situation.
Interesting. That sounds very exciting. People will be on the lookout for that, Bishop. I think most people who are watching us know already, but I always like to remind people that they can tune into your radio broadcasts if you're in the New York, New Jersey area on 92.9 FM. People around the world can listen to Bishop Gaiters broadcasts on liferadionj.com/Gators on Thursdays from 7 to 9. And it's really important, people who watch the show each week and enjoy hearing the bishop's information, his insights, even the people that like to post insulting comments about me or the bishop, if you're watching, you should be supporting the show, and you can sponsor the bishop's global spiritual revolution by going to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group. And you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by becoming a monthly sponsor on patreon.com/crowdsource the truth or subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. Bishop, you've proposed a really interesting topic today, and I am as intrigued as our viewers because I have no idea what you're going to be sharing with us, but it is sure to be amazing. And just briefly, before we get into the main topic, I wanted to discuss with you for a moment a very disturbing circumstance that has made it even more important for people to sponsor us and this show on Patreon and Subscribestar. Crowdsource the Truth has come under attack from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, from the president of that organization, issuing a strike against the Jason Goodman channel for what he says is a copyright infringement, and I say is a parody. Bishop, what do you make of this?
Jason, it lets me know that you are hitting nerves with the global Baphomet Luciferian deep state. They fear you because they fear the truth of God that God has placed in your heart. And so it means that you're doing the right thing. The late, great Prime Minister of Great Britain, Winston Churchill, once said, if you have enemies, good, because it represents that you said and did the right thing. So absolutely, I thank God for you, Jason, because you're exposing this darkness in this generation that needs to be exposed.
Thank you, Bishop. And I'm going to be delving into this some more because I think there is more to it. The individual who issued this strike is the son of a news reporter himself, guy who was a CBS news reporter during the 1960s and the 1970s. And Bishop, I know you're familiar with the Senator Frank Church and his church committee hearings during which William Colby, who at the time was the CIA director, he admitted that the CIA had a program called Operation Mockingbird, where in the 1960s and the 1970s, they were literally paying journalists to skew stories in the direction of the CIA. I don't know if this guy's father was involved in that program, but it sure is suspicious, isn't it?
It is very suspicious, Jason. I know you and I had touched on that PSYOP some months ago. Now, as a quick side note, William Colby, his body was found dead, I believe, in the Chesapeake River.
Right.
in Maryland, and so under mysterious circumstances. So Operation Mockingbird has not ended. It's just the same demon, but under a different name, calling for the total manipulation of reality, time, and probability through the media, from whence we get the term medium, which means witchcraft or divination. So when you got people like Rachel Mad Cow Maddow and through the CNN, the Crack News Network, through Don Sweet Lemon, and all of these other devils, they're trying to feed us this garbage that you and I have been calling fake news. But the American people are beginning to wake up, and we're beginning to see that this American media industrial complex was never designed to bring forth the truth. It was
Right.
designed to manipulate reality.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to play, this is the reason I brought it up, because I think this is going to play into your lecture today. I also want to point out, Bishop, that despite being the president of television, this guy has a pretty poor performing YouTube channel. He's got 2 subscribers on there, and even though he was a highly placed employee at Twitter, I think he was a C-level executive or certainly high up in there during the time they went public. This guy's appeared on Australian television. He's appeared on Fox News, CBS News, NPR, I think, lots of big shows. But look at his viewership. The guy's the president of television. He's not really very engaging. You and I put out videos, Bishop, and thousands of people watch them. This is why I tell people that it's important they sponsor you through paypal.me/GSRR Media Group and crowdsource the truth, because there's powerful forces that are aligning against us, and they have already sent a Washington, D.C. law firm after me, letters, threats. They want me to pay their legal bills. They're saying that I've violated the copyright laws. They're basically besmirching my integrity as a journalist by claiming I've stolen something, when in fact I'm just being a creative parodyist. But we'll talk more about this in the future, Bishop. I definitely want to hear about the story you're going to tell us and the information you'll share about the manipulation of reality. The other YouTube channel I want to bring to everybody's attention, Bishop, is yours. People can watch a simulcast of each of our shows on the, that's still mine. Yours is the Global Spiritual Revolution Radio and Media Group YouTube channel. Your channel is growing tremendously, Bishop, and just on this broadcast alone, you've already got more viewers than all of the videos posted by the president of television.
That is amazing, Jason. It tells me that you and I are doing the right thing. You see, this is the very essence of the global deep state. They're so efficacious to bring out what they perceive the truth, but at the same time, they're so inefficacious to define what truth is. So you and I are truthers. We are a part of the awakened community. Whereas through the mindset of the deep state, they want to dismiss us, discredit us, demonize us, and eventually destroy us. But it's not going to work today.
No, definitely not, Bishop, because I don't tolerate bullies. And frankly, when you were speaking before about Rachel Maddow, she's doing the type of reporting that would be rewarded with an Emmy Award. And you and I are being assaulted by this powerful, moneyed organization that I think people should really think about how the Emmys can influence news over years and years, because the people who are working for Emmy Award-winning newscasters are aware of the type of reporting that gets you those accolades and advances your career, whereas you and I are being suppressed by this kind of thing. So it's something dangerous that people need to be looking out for.
And as a quick side note, how did Rachel Mad Cow Maddow get her hands on the 2006 tax returns of President Trump? To my understanding, I'm not a lawyer, that's a felony, Jason. Why isn't Rachel Mad Cow Maddow in prison? That's a felony, unless President Trump gave her permission. Either it was the 2006 tax returns or the 2016 tax returns. Regardless, that's a felony. And then she had deceived her audience by making them believe under the pretense, 2005, under the pretext that these were the present day tax returns. So MSNBC are nothing but liars. And this is the reason why we, the American people, were so sick and tired of this media. Okay. And they cannot stop of that which is to come. So I'm excited today to break down this global manipulation here today.
Absolutely, Bishop. Rachel Maddow has breaking news. Donald Trump is extremely rich. I'm shocked to learn that.
Okay, okay. You know, as far as Rachel Mad Cow Maddow, what else do you expect from a pig other than the grunt? Okay, what she needs to do, just concentrate on telling the truth instead of pleasing her boss. This is madness, Jason. But you know what? Joe Biden is not going to be elected. President Trump will be elected. So to the American people, just stay calm, cool, and collected. President Trump will win re-election without
I
a
agree,
question.
Bishop. I agree. So where would you like to begin with today's presentation?
The manipulation of reality, time, and probability, which is a very unique topic. Now, according to one of the greatest theologians in world history, a man by the name of Baruch de Spinoza had once said, "What altar of refuge can a man find himself when he commits treason against the majesty of reason?" What altar of refuge, interesting, a man can find himself when he commits treason against the majesty of reason? Well, the one who committed treason against God was, of course, Lucifer L, Satan S, Devil D, LSD. And according to the writings of the Pythagoreans, through Pythagoras, he said that reason is immortality, or reason is immortal. Everything else is mortal. So what's happening today? We got the crack news network, CNN, through Operation Mockingbird, okay, NBC,
Exactly.
MSNBC, the America media industrial complex has not produced any true journalists like you and I, my friend. So this is called the manipulation of reality, which you and I call esokinesis. We brought that word up a few times the past 2 weeks. Then we're going to get into not just the manipulation of reality, esokinesis, but also the manipulation of time, chronokinesis, C, which gives birth to the manipulation of probability, psychokinesis, T. Well, ECT is the acronym for the term etc. So in order for us to expose the truth, we must unlayer the lies that are based through the psyop of efficacious truth, but at its core, it's inefficacious. So then the manipulation of reality, that's esokinesis, the manipulation of time, that's chronokinesis. This is where you and I get the term chronology. Then we have that third paradigm, the manipulation of probability, probability, Bability, Babel, Babylines, Babylonia, Babylon. So the truth and the authenticity of that truth is contained in words. So the manipulation of that probability is called psychokinesis. So we're talking about the manipulation of reality or transformation, the manipulation of time, that's called transfection, and the manipulation of probability is called transduction. So we have this threefold tier of a mental psyop that America in the world has been deceived for thousands of years through the manipulation of reality, transformation, the manipulation of time or timology, the transfection of that, through the manipulation of probability or psychokinesis, that's the transduction of that sphere. So before we get into those three paradigms, I want to point to the human being. So we are not human beings, Jason, living a spiritual experience. but rather we are spiritual beings living a human experience. So, to your listeners, do not confuse your creation with your birth. Creation precedes birth. So, the word of the Lord says that you and I, Jason, were created in Christ before the foundation of both the earth and the world. So there's a great distinction between the foundation of the earth versus the foundation of the world. So the foundation of what you and I call the earth, notice the first three letters, ear. So the word of the Lord says, he that hath an ear to hear, let him hear, not just hear, but hear in location. So the foundation of the earth starts in God's creation of mankind, Genesis 1:1. But there's a great distinction, Jason, between earth and the world. The world is the fallen state of what we call the earth. So, which takes us to the manipulation of reality, time, and probability, which began after the fall of Lucifer between verses 1 and 2 of Genesis 1, that a lot of theologians like myself call the gap theory, where darkness was upon the face of the deep. Now, as a quick side note, Jason, that term darkness has a twofold Hasidic Hebrew meaning, okay? Darkness means the state of being. It is also a Persian interpretation, which means the state of the being of the condition of man. That's darkness. But that state of being or state was upon the face of the deep. So this is the beginning of the deep state. So the deep state did not begin on the 22nd of November in 1963 in Dallas, Texas, in Dealey Plaza, because of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. That was the beginning of the present day deep state. But the spiritual origins or originations of the deep state began in Genesis chapter 1, between verses 1 and 2, where we get the term state of being or darkness. So, darkness is the lack of light. This is where you and I get the term ignorance. Now, an ignorant person does not mean that the person lacks education, because you got ignorant fools like Joe Biden, okay, like his wife, okay, like Michael Obama and the Obamas and Barack Obama and Joe
Rachel
Biden.
Maddow.
And Rachel Maddow, that's right, highly educated. Rachel Maddow is an Oxford grad, but yet Rachel Maddow is so inefficacious as a journalist to reveal the truth. In other words, Rachel Maddow is carrying a psyop of a deep state operative that began in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. And darkness, or the state of being, the state was upon the face of the deep. So then this is where you and I get the term deep state, as we're talking about the manipulation of reality, time, and probability.
Sorry, Bishop,
Now,
if I might
yeah,
interject
right
real
ahead.
quickly, it
Yes,
is
sir.
important to note that Rachel Maddow did go to Oxford, where she was a Rhodes Scholar. And people who watch David Hawkins' Discovery CSI on Fridays know that Cecil Rhodes published a manifesto that included a 200-year plan for world domination. So, people who want to call this a conspiracy theory, this was Cecil Rhodes' plan, to give out these scholarships and indoctrinate
Wow.
people while they're being educated. He was looking for, dominion, people who were citizens of the United States, of Canada, of Australia, of New Zealand, because these were the dominions of the United Kingdom. And by indoctrinating them into the Cecil Rhodes Scholarship Program, they've basically become double-cross agents. People can learn a lot more about that from David Hawkins.
And Jason, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for bringing up David Hawkins, because he's got one of the greatest minds that I have ever encountered in 40 years of ministry. So this manipulation of reality, also there's a manipulation not just of reality, time, and probability. But Jason, in my studies late last night, I was up to like 3:45 in the morning. There is a term called the manipulation of perceived reality through non-local intention. I said, well, okay, wait a minute now. Not just the manipulation of reality, isokinesis, but there is the manipulation of perceived reality through non-local intention. Now, according to the National Institutes of Health's website, nih.gov, and your listeners can go on that website, nih.gov, and just type in non-local intention, or the manipulation of perceived reality. So you got the manipulation of reality. That's one layer. Then you have the manipulation of perceived reality. That's another layer. Then there is the manipulation, Jason, of manipulation. In other words, through the American media system, they create an enemy like white people. And then this is what they do through selective outrage. So selective outrage controls the narrative by keeping the narrative intact through the manipulation of reality, perceived reality, and the manipulation of that manipulation of that manipulation. It is so layered, Jason, that the average American doesn't know what's going on. And that term, non-local intention, what is a non-local intention? Well, it means that it is an algorithm that is an image processing system for the imaging of denoising, denoising, unlike local means or filters. In other words, a non-local intention is a pixel. Let me give you an example. So then, you're in the 3D world. You're a powerful figure in the 3D world, Jason. And I don't know anything about 3D imaging, but this is the perception of reality, the manipulation of reality, and the manipulation of perceived reality. Now, from far away, what Rachel Maddow is saying, it looks like the truth. It sounds like the truth. But when you get closer to Rachel Maddow, or Don Sweet Lemon from the Crack News Network, or Jake Tapper Tap, these people are nothing but pixels or algorithms in the system of the deep state, whose intent is to create an altered reality through political psychedelic psyopism. It is a political paradigm, a political and a spiritual psychedelic conspiracy to create an alternate reality, especially in the minds of Black Americans. Not all, but most. They want they want Black America to think that any color that is the direct opposite of them is the enemy. That is the manipulation of reality, isokinesis, that is birthed as the offspring, Jason, of the manipulation of perceived reality through the manipulation of manipulation, in which it reveals the term non-local intention. So the deep state looks at you and I and 7.7 billion people as nothing more than Truman Burbanks, okay? Nothing more than 7.7 billion pixels, okay? Because they don't look at you and I as human beings being a part of the human family. So then, notice you and I said this at the beginning of the teaching, as Baruch de Spinoza said, what altar of refuge can a man or a woman find themselves when they commit treason against the majesty of reason? So the America media industrial complex is committing treason, not only against the majesty of God's reason, but against the majesty of the reason of what makes you and I Americans. As we're breaking down this foundation of a long series called The Manipulation of Reality, Time, and Probability. So your birth is nothing but a manifestation of our creation. In other words, Jason, you and I were already a created being in the mind of God, not just before the foundation of the earth and the foundation of the world, but you and I existed as an entity in God's thought before became before. Or let me say this again. So when we're talking about exposing the manipulation of reality, time, and probability, the deep state does not want you and I to know who we are in Jesus Christ. So Christ created 7.7 billion people before became before before it became before. In other words, you and I have value. So 1.8 people per second die on this planet. This is a powerful paradigm as we're exposing this manipulation of reality, time, and probability. So 1.8 persons die per second on this planet. 4.2 babies are born per second. So 4.2 babies born per second plus 1.8 people who used to be fetuses and children, they die per second. Well, 4.2 plus 1.8, Jason, equals 6.0 seconds. So the original man was created spirit on the sixth day in Genesis 1:27. So every person, and the question is, why do babies die? I'm laying this foundation before we get to the total manipulation of reality, time, and probability. Why do children cry at birth? Because, Jason, they are exposed to the element of time where that child begins to die. You see, when you and I were born, okay, you and I began to scream, not just because of the trauma that you and I experienced within the timelessness womb of our beautiful mothers, but when your skull and my cranium hit the air, our bodies began to die. That's why we as human beings are so precious in the sight of God. So man was designed on the sixth day. So do not confuse your creation with your birth. So quickly here, the foundation of the earth, Genesis 1:1. But the world does not begin as the foundation of the world until the fall of both Lucifer in Genesis 1 and 2 and Adam in Genesis chapter 3. So the earth is not the same as the world. The world is the fallen nature of the earth, because the term world means a system. It is a system of enslavement of what you and I call reality, time, and probability. So then, as we move forward here quickly, so we're talking about, Jason, the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. So then, there's this great distinction between the foundation of the earth, man, I'm excited today, versus the foundation of the world. So then, Jason, the Persian term for the phrase foundation of the earth, it comes from the Persian term cosmology with a K, okay? Or cosmos with a K, which means origination or the internality of God's creation, okay? That's cosmos with a K for the earth. But on the other side of this coin, Jason, is what we call the foundation of the world, which then comes from the Greek word cosmos with a C. This is where we get the term cosmology, which means the externality of a fallen world that was once internal as the earth. So there's a great distinction between the foundation of the earth versus the foundation of the world. And there's another term we can get into one day called theosophical. Now, getting back here, now this is a powerful paradigm. Now, in the motion picture industry, before we get into the manipulation of reality, time, and probability, the Hollywood industrial complex, they are masters when it comes to perceived reality. So you have different levels or stages, my friend, of motion pictures. You got the cinema motion picture. You have television. That's a motion picture. You have the stage, okay, and the play. So you have 4 seasons of manipulation emanating out of Hollywood through the motion picture, okay, which we call the manipulation of perceived reality through non-local intentions. That from the outside in, the picture looks normal, but from the inside out, the picture is a counterfeit called a pixel. That is a non-local intentional psyop of what we call the manipulation of not just reality, but perceived reality through the manipulation of manipulation. So, motion picture, then you have television, that's emotion. Stage, that's emotion. And play, that's a motion. So, in other words, Jason, you got motions within the picture industry, but at different stages in dimensions or stratospheres. These are called the power of IMAX or OmniMax, which represents the manipulation of human emotion through a motion picture, television, stage, and the play. Now, Jason, we're going to get into closer when it comes to the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. So you and I were created in 3 dimensions. That is called a trichotomy. We are a spirit, we are a soul living inside of a corporation that we call a corpse. This is where we get the term corporation or corpse. So there is a battle between the kingdom of God versus the kingdom of Satan to incorporate you in connection to them. So then, here comes the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. Now, there was 108 billion people that were born in history, Jason. This is a powerful paradigm. So then, to understand this manipulation of reality, of time or timeology through the prism of probability, you and I have only a part of the human family that is only 7% of its original creation. In other words, what the bishop is saying, there was 108 billion people, Jason, that were born into history. 93% of these people had died because of the manipulation of reality, the manipulation of time through the prism of the manipulation of probability. So then 108 billion people were born in history, but there's 108 chapters in the 4 volumes of the prophet Enoch, or the book of Enoch. Another topic for another day. So then that the human being speaks on the average around 30,000 words per day. Jesus Christ began his public ministry at age 30. And at the same time, every human being will speak on the average around 860,341,500 words in our lifetime. Some even more if they're in the crack news network. 860,341,000 words. 860,341,500 words, or 30,000 words per day. Now, as we get into what we call manipulation. Now, the term here, manipulation, is a combination of man in the term opulation, from whence we get the term oculation. And woman oculates, and that term oculate or oculation reveals the word occultic. So manipulation in connection to kinetics. So kinetics revolves around the global plan that the human gene in the human cell becomes manipulated and controlled remotely by an outside source, George Soros, okay, in the global deep state. So in Genesis 6, Enoch 6, in Jude 6, 666, or historical, spiritual, social distancing. Now, as a side point, the Gestalt theory that you and I have been talking about for weeks now is rooted in the psyop, Jason, of social distancing by 6 feet, which is rooted in Wiccanism, witchcraft, and warlock seances, where the witch and the warlock must stand 6 feet apart from each other. In other words, Jason, you and I are a part of not just the greatest global cover-up in human history. You and I are a part of the greatest onslaught called a global spell that we have ever witnessed in our lives. Now, as a quick side point, in Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, it's to my understanding that John, the Revelator, had said that Lucifer, through his tail, infected the 3rd part of the angelic government of God. Well, that term 3rd part, according to rabbinical mathematics, it means 0.3333333, or 0.93. What Jesus Christ lived for 33 and a half years. Another topic for another day, which also represents a 666 percentage or percentile of the angels that were infected by the tail of Lucifer, Satan, the devil. So the Bible says that God has made you and I the head of Christ, and not the tail of Lucifer. So Bill Clinton was almost destroyed by Monica Lewinsky because of tail. JFK was almost destroyed because of tail. Tail has destroyed kingdoms, Jason. Tail has manipulated reality, time, and probability. So that term, third part, not only means 0.93s or 666 percentage of the numbers of angels that were once unfallen, now are called fallen or Enochian angels or Nephilims. The term Enoch means incubi in Persian, and Nakians or Kyans means succubate or succubation in Persian. So the term Enochians is a composition of incubi and succubi, okay, which is a transsexual, transhumanistic spirit. Another topic for another day.
Well, now,
So,
Bishop, people
go
who've
right
been
ahead.
following your previous series will remember that word Enochian as the form of magic that John Dee practiced, the guy who
Yes,
was the advisor to Queen, which queen was it?
Elizabeth. Yeah,
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth the First. Yes, Queen Elizabeth the First. Jason, again, you got a great mind, and thank you for bringing that up because that term in Enochian, okay, is also a transliteration into inoculation, inoc, or to be soul tied. In other words, through the manipulation of reality, time, and probability, it is built upon the foundation of pharmakia, pharmaceutical, through inoculation, Enochian keys. So 95% of the medication that the world global pharmaceutical system has created for decades is named after some demon god in some type of mythology, whether it be Greek, Persian, or Roman mythology. Now, quickly, thank you so much, and jump in anytime if you see something. See something, Jason. So then, we're talking about the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. Man, I'm excited about this teaching today. So that 9 or 0.93s or 9,333 years then becomes 25,000 years, 25 years, 6 months, 3 weeks, 4 days, 8 hours, 39 minutes, and 59 seconds. That the third part of the angels of God have been in control of the air. Now, Satan is called the prince of the power of the air. Another topic for another day. Now we're going to get into the manipulation of reality. So the manipulation of reality starts with the term esokinesis. Now, remember, I believe it was a week or two, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, that we talked about Operation High Jump, right? Which was the official title through the United States Navy Department between 1946 and to 1947, when it was led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, okay, who had produced a bloodline descendant, a Klansman, Senator Robert Byrd, a close friend, the late Robert Byrd, a close friend of Hillary Clinton. So there was a force of military personnel called 468. Well, in Enoch, okay, chapter 68, it talks about demons transforming the genetical bloodline of nations in Enoch chapter 68. Now, I'm going to get into the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. But what I'm about to reveal to you, Jason, you already know this. This is mind blowing. According to Eric Kurlander's book, Hitler's Monsters, a supernatural history of the Third Reich. Hitler's Monsters, a supernatural history of the Third Reich. He begins to write about Dr. Werner von Braun, who actually built NASA, and Dr. Hermann Oberth, another scientist. And both these men were former Nazis. In this book, Dr. Kurlander says that both Dr. Werner von Braun and Dr. Hermann Oberth made a statement in 1974. They said, we cannot take the credit for our record advancement in certain scientific fields alone. We, the Third Reich, we have had help. From where? From other worlds. In other words, Jason, the Third Reich realm was built upon occultism through the prism of the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. So that's the reason why that near the end of World War II, over 13,000 occultic books in the Czech Republic was found by the Allies, which belonged to the Third Reich, okay? Over 13,000 books on genetical engineering and transhumanism. So then now the manipulation of reality is called isokinesis. So that term, manipulation, man, when translated into Persian, reveals the word Jason, kind, K-I-N-E, kind, which is the acronym for kinetic. So kinetic is the manipulation of both cell and human genes by manipulating human emotion remotely. From where? An architect, just like in the Matrix. Who is the architect of Black America? George Soros. So the manipulation of reality, man, then you get the word kind. Then you got the last 7 letters of manipulation, or to manipulate. It is the term ipulate, or to oculate, or inoculation, as you said so powerfully a few minutes ago. So when we say the word manipulation, we're saying that man kinetically, through occultic means, is being controlled remotely, not by God, but by forces who oppose God. We call this Antichrist, or the kinetic system of the world. That's the manipulation of reality, okay? That is called isokinesis, okay? Now you have not just the manipulation of reality, but the manipulation of time that you and I call chronokinesis. Jason, there is a phrase that people have been using all of their lives, and that phrase is called kudos, K-U-D-O-S. But unbeknownst to the American public and possibly the world, the term kudos is the name of a Greek entity, kaidos, K-Y-D-O-S, which means the odyssey of deception, the odyssey of the poetical justice of deception. Through where? Reality, time, and probability. So when people ignorantly say, oh, kudos, they have already activated not just what we call the manipulation of reality, isokinesis, and chronokinesis, time, and tychokinesis, probability. But kudos kinesis is the manipulation of intention, where a person sarcastically gives praise to another human being. That term kudos or kudos kinesis or kaidos kinesis means the manipulation of favor from one person to the next. Jason, this is mind blowing here. So then, when we're talking about the manipulation of reality, there is a company, Jason, out of China called GeneKine. GeneKine, Kine, where they are practitioners of manipulation through mind control. Also, they specialize in the gene manipulation, the manipulation of human genes, the manipulation of non-human genes through gene editing or gene splicing, where they will splice the DNA of an animal and connect it to the DNA of a human to clone. Cloning didn't start 100 years ago. Cloning began in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, because darkness or the state of being was upon the deep. Okay, so state deep or deep state is the father of the manipulation of reality, time, and probability through what we call GeneKine. Gene, Genesis, kind, kinesis, gene kinetics, where Satan will try to manipulate emotion through the manipulation of our cells in genes remotely. So, my friend, that's the manipulation of reality or GeneKine. Now we get the manipulation of what you and I call time. Now, people ignorantly have taught in the church that God created time. Time is an anomaly to God. God, Jason, did not create time. I get everyone's attention now. God is that which is eternal. Time is foreign to the nature of God, of who God is. So time, Jason, is eternity with a beginning, and eternity is time without a beginning. So then the fall of Lucifer. Now, when I say fall, I'm not talking about a physical fall. The fall of Lucifer is cognitional. So when Lucifer thought, because his domain was the first 9 heavens, there are 10 heavens and 10 hells. So we have 10 fingers and 10 toes. Either we are the paradigm of heaven or the psyop of hell. We are the paradigm of heaven, the foundation of the earth, versus the psyop of hell, the foundation of the world. So chronokinesis is the manipulation or the time warping or the bending of what we call time. So time warping. Now, let me give you an example, Jason. You take a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but if you fold it in half, that 8.5 by 11 piece of paper becomes manipulated or bent or warped into 4.25 by 11 inches. But if you unfold the 4.25 by 11 inches, it returns back to its normal shape of an 8.5 by 11 picture. So Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, came 2,000 years ago to unfold chronokinesis so that we can go back to that 8.5 by 11 photo, not of time, but that which is timelessness. So chronokinesis is the total manipulation of time. Time doesn't begin until Genesis 1 and 2. Because Jason, prior to verse 2 of Genesis 1, time doesn't exist. So time, no, Bishop is not saying Lucifer created time. Lucifer does not have the ability to create. No angels, whether fallen or unfallen, has that ability. But time is the result of the fallen entity of a cherubim who was never called to be an archangel. Lucifer was never an archangel. That's been another lie. So time is what we call an illusion. Jason, let me give you an example. If I say, Jason, I'm going to do this tomorrow, Wednesday. So when tomorrow, Wednesday comes, you ask me, Bishop, what is this? I say, today. So when we talk about, yes, today and forever. So the past is an illusion. The present is an illusion. The future is an illusion because it's built upon the foundation, not of the earth, but of the world, cosmology with the C that represents a hologram. 2020 is a hologram that's built upon counterfeit time through both the Julian calendar of 45 BCE, before the Common Era, and the Gregorian calendar from 1582 that was enacted by Pope Gregory the 13th, who was a member of the Jesuit secret society. So the calendar that America in the world is going by is built upon both the manipulation of reality, time, and the probability of 12 months, which each month, Jason, represents a name of a spirit or entity in Roman mythology. Janus or January, February or February. Why is Black History Month in February? Because February, according to Vatican history and also according to Roman mythology, February was the god of skin deception. Skin. So you got witches like Beyonce singing Black is King. That is the manipulation of both reality and now time. So time was not the result of God's creation. Time is an anomaly. It is a hologram. So then, Jason, you and I have to ask ourselves, is this 2020? It's only 2020, my friend, because you and I are going by both a Julian and, more importantly, a Gregorian calendar that was created by man in alignment with the stars, in the sun, in the moon. That is not in control of God, but God is in control of his creation. Time is an illusion. What is the first three letters of the word illusion? Ill, that which is an illness or a sickness. Now we're going to get into further when it comes to the manipulation now of probability. Now, the term probability, it simply means the extension to which an event is created through probability, something that happens or an event that occurs. Look at the word occur, O-C-C-U-R, okay? Occur or oculate. Here we go, oculate, that which is occultic or deception. That occurs through deception, through measurements by the ratio of the favorable outcome. That's why Super Bowls are already predated. They know who's going to win the Super Bowl 5 years from now. That is the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. The entire American sports industrial complex is built upon manipulation, Jason. That's called psychokinesis, the manipulation of probability.
Bishop, real
So,
quick, you've
go
just
right ahead.
raised an important point that I want to ask you about. I think we've discussed this a little bit, but it's come up a lot again in conversations with David Hawkins, this retired NFL player. Wow, right now he's 33 years old. But Rashard Mendenhall, he
Yes.
fumbled the ball on the 33-yard line, I believe,
Yes.
during the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And it resulted in a loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think he played for.
Yes. And Jason, I'm so glad that you brought that up because these games are rigged. See, this is again, when people are spending thousands of dollars to go to a baseball game, a basketball game, a football game, a hockey game, thinking that they're going to see authenticity, but they're seeing nothing but a Truman Show, a lie of a game that's been rigged in its origin. Going back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Rashard Mendenhall fumbled that ball on purpose. He was fulfilling the manipulation of that reality, time, in order to give a probability income or an outcome. These men are paid off to rig football games, okay? That's the reason why I believe partly Kobe Bryant was assassinated, because back in 2002, during the Western Conference Finals between the LA Lakers and the Sacramento Kings, it was clearly shown that the LA Lakers were going to win that series through manipulation, okay? And that's the reason why Kobe was going to expose that as well, because the deep state did not want him to receive $1 billion check from Mohammed bin Salman in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Another topic for another day. So anytime, jump right in. So probability. So the lottery is the manipulation of probability. The lottery is the manipulation of probability, okay? Gambling, dice throwing, even the game Monopoly is based upon the manipulation of reality time through probability. Now look at the word probability. We can dissect it in two sections. Probability. Season ability means to babble, Babylines, Babylonia, Babylon, Ba 6, by 6, Lawn 6, 666, or Genesis 6, Enoch 6, Jude 6, historical, spiritual, social distancing. So then, you and I are eyewitnessing on a global level, Jason, of the greatest global scam in human history through COVID-19. Now, as we get, Jason, now what I'm about to say, you already know this, but this is mind-blowing. As we're still breaking down for Volume 1, the manipulation of reality, isokinesis, E, time, chronokinesis, C, and probability, psychokinesis, T. So ECT is the acronym for the term etc. Etc. is an acronym that goes back thousands of years, which was a word or phrase to put a hex on somebody, just like the term kudos. Jason, we're saying words and we have no idea what they mean. Now, remember on last week, we talked about the Monsanto family and this word arguy, right? Auggury. Now, there was a company that you brought up last week, a corporation, arguy.com, AUGURY.com, okay? where machines will speak to you, okay? Keep your production lines running. So in other words, argues were also witches and warlocks or priests or priestess that go back to the Roman Empire that would predetermine the outcome of a particular game in an arena by and through the counting of birds or omens. Now, remember the movie Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. When Denzel Washington drives into South Central and there is a black man that's clapping his hands, releasing the birds, signifying to the community through what we call augmentation manipulation or arguing through omens, letting the community know that Denzel Washington was coming in. Well, how did Black people learn that? From Africa. So that's called the manipulation of reality, time through probability. Now we're going to get into this deeper. Now, the term here, Enochian, when it comes to genetic manipulation, that goes back to Genesis 6, Enoch 6, and Jude 6, 666. Historical, spiritual manipulation of distancing. Now, Jason, going back thousands of years, originally there were 111 books or volumes of what rabbinical scholars call there were 111 degrees of God's thinking by human conception. 45 books, Jason, were extracted from the word of the Lord, the Bible, that we call Biblios, or the book, the volume of God's thinking. Now we have 66 degrees or books of God's thinking. But there is a missing, Jason, 45-degree angle of God's thinking through the extrication, the subtraction of the 45 books. Why is the number 45 so important? The 45th president of the United States, our great president, Donald J. Trump. Then you have the 45th parallel on this planet. Some say 75th, but the 45th parallel from the center of the earth to up north is 45 degrees. That's the North Pole. Or from the center of the earth going south, 45 degrees. That's the South Pole going down to the South Pole or the Antarctica, okay? Which is the domain of a certain percentage of fallen demons or Enochians. So that's called, there's a 45-degree angle of truth that has been missing, and now it's in the Vatican Bank. So my assignment today, and has been for the past year, to reveal the 45-degree angle of truth so that the American people can begin to exercise the 90% of their power that was lost because of the serpent. Oh my God. This is the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. So there is a Persian term called Anuki, capital A-N-U, then K-I. That is the acronym, Jason, for the term Enochian. So the term Enochian comes from two Persian interpretations. Anu, A-N-U, means not just hybrid, but it means to inoculate, incubus. Incubi is connected to the term inoculate. Incubus, incubi, inoculate. That's Anu. Then the word ki, Ki, is not only a name of a goddess, there are female Enochian demons and female Nephilims, okay? who were once angels that fell in Genesis 6, Enoch 6, and Jude 6. So key not only means Gaiters, but it means to succubate. Oh my, to succubate. So then, Enochians word a transhumanistic demonic creatures who are called Nephilims or watchers today that emanated from Revelation 12 and 4 as being a part of that third part of the angelic government of God who tried to force God, listen to this, Jason, they tried to force God to abdicate his throne. Now, when I talk about throne, I'm not talking about an old man sitting on a chair. That's not what Bishop is talking about. The term throne means the seat of thinking, of power, okay? So we either are going to have Jesus Christ sitting on the throne of our thinking or the devil. So Enochian means transhumanistic, a hybrid spirit that was once an unfallen angel, that is now a fallen entity that can mutate from man to woman back to man again. This is the reason why I said a few weeks ago, and when we're talking about volume 1, the manipulation of reality, time, and probability, that in the 45 lost books, one of those books, Jason, called the Book of Adam and Eve, it talks about that Adam, who wrote that particular book along with his wife, Adam represents the AM of the morning, Eve represents the PM of the evening. So Adam had said that the serpent approached the woman as a man. And the same serpent who approached the woman as a man approached the man as a woman. So this is called an Enochian psyop. Part man, part woman. This is where you and I get the term ambiguous genitalia. That represents a fetus that is born with two sex organs. That's called ambiguous genitalia. Then there is another term, Jason, when we're talking about the manipulation of reality, time, and through the prism of probability. That term is called heteropaternal superfecundation. Oh, that's a long word. Heteropaternal superfecundation. That's when a mother like Eve has fraternal twins, Cain and Abel, cannibalism, or spirit cooking. Another topic for another day. So this woman, Eve, through superfecundation, both twins fraternally belong to the same mother, Eve, but they don't belong to the same father. Cain's father was the serpent. Abel's father was Adam. That's called heteropaternal superfecundation, where the enemy wants to pervert and invert God's creation. I believe, Jason, that what Satan wants to do, he wants to create not just an antichrist global psyop of the manipulation of reality, perceived reality, and the manipulation of time and probability. But Satan is going to try holographically create a counterfeit second coming of Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Jason, I know this sounds like a sci-fi movie. So then, getting back to the topics at hand. So then, remember last week we left off on, there is a term here, and we're talking about Enochians, right? Manipulating reality, time, and probability. The Enochians are the fallen angels from Genesis 6, Enoch 6, and Jude 6. Social distancing 666. The language of the Enochian is the language, my friend, called Gaia, capital G-A-I-A. That is the language of the Enochian, who are called Nephilims and Watchers today, from Genesis 6, Enoch 6, and Jude 6, 666. So Gaia is the language, the dialect, and the accent of demons. Well, the religion of Gaia is worshipped by a witch out of Chicago named Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is a witch. Beyonce is a witch. Okay? These black women are witches. Not every black woman, but a great percentage, Jason, of black women who have been manipulated through reality, time, and probability, including Gail Stale King, the girlfriend of her fellow witch, Oprah Winfrey. They are followers of a warlock named Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle is a present-day warlock that through his books, that is the language of Gaia, that the individual is God, that there is no God above you, but you are your own God and goddess. That is the religion of Gaia. So Eckhart Tolle, I'm not talking about him as a person. I'm talking about the spirit that Eckhart Tolle has been propagating. He is a male witch. Oprah is a female warlock. There you go. So Eckhart Tolle is a male witch. Oprah Winfrey is a male warlock. They work in conjunction with each other to manipulate the reality of people's lives through time and probability. So Oprah Winfrey doesn't believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name is the Lord Jesus Christ. Oprah Winfrey says, you are your own God. Well, the language of Gaia, which is not only the language of the Enochian, the fallen angels who are called Nephilims and watchers, but Gaia was first the language of the serpent. Jason, oh God, you got to write this down. So whatever God has in truth, Satan has a counterfeit. So in truth, you and I are a tabernacle of Christ. Okay? We have an outer court, the body, the corporation. We have an inner court, the soul, the mind. Okay? The soul, the seat of our affections. Then we have the most holy place, the spirit that God breathed into us. So to all of your listeners, the oxygen, the air that you call oxygen, in the term oxygen means to oxidate, okay? It means it means the air is being manipulated through genetics. So that term oxygen is connected to the term oxidate, oxidation, the total manipulation of air. That's not from God, that's from Lucifer. But the air that you're breathing is God himself. It's not the counterfeit form of air called oxygen through oxidation. That's where Satan has genetically mutated or manipulated the air. What's inside of you is not oxidation or oxygen. It is called God. No, you're not God, but the breath that God breathed into Adam is the same breath, Jason, that you and I are breathing. But the deep state doesn't want you and I to know this. They want you to think that it's oxygen or the genetic manipulation of air that's keeping you alive and not God. We're going to expose the total manipulation of reality, time, and probability.
Sorry,
Now,
Bishop, real quick. There's
go
a
right
lot of
ahead.
people bringing this up, talking about black magic. You know, you're telling us about Enochian magic and
Oh,
stuff.
yes.
I've always been fascinated how, somebody like, whether it's Oprah Winfrey and her audience or Hillary Clinton giving a speech, it's almost as if they're casting a spell out onto all of these people. Certainly if they say something, many people will respond to that. And it almost is kind of a modern incarnation of these incantations. The other thing I was going to ask you, Bishop, is can you guess the name of the president of television?
No, sir.
It's Adam.
Oh my. Oh, Jason, I'm telling you, out of all the hosts, and I'm saying this because you know me, I am a contract killer. Out of all the hosts, I'm on the radio. I'm on some radio show every other day from all over the world. Jason, if Hollywood were calling you and I to have a show, and they say, Bishop, which host would you choose? I would choose Jason Goodman, because Jason Goodman and I work so well together, where he shows the photos of what I'm talking about, and then we'll bring correction if it need. You are the best, Jason, and I mean that. Okay. Now I love Alex Jones, but you, Jason, you and I work so well together. We are synchronized. Excellent point that you made there, Jason. See, this is called in a part of the deep state, selective outrage. Okay, through Black Lives Matter. Okay, now selective outrage is also called selective action. Action, Antifa, Black Lives Matter. Why do we see selective action being birthed from its mother's selective outrage? It's because they want to keep the narrative intact. Jason, these devils want to keep the narrative intact. Now, remember last week, we talked about the term Chips Ahoy, right? And you and I talked about MRC5 through the Medical Research Council. And to your listeners, if you get a chance, look up the logo on the insignia of the Medical Research Council. It looks like the five-starred pentagram of Baphomet. Through the Medical Research Council, where they created the cell strain 5 from the tissues of aborted children that you're now drinking in your coffee mates and your creamers. Now, Jason, I found out something earlier this week. Now, as a side note, we talk about the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. There is an ingredient in both Mellow Yellow and Mountain Dew. It's called sodium benzoate with the E silent. There's a second additive called gum arabic. Now, part of gum arabic comes from a tree in India and Pakistan called the acai tree, capital ACACIA. But most of the bovine soft drinks in India and Pakistan, I tell people look it up, bovine, capital BOVINE. The bovine soft drinks that's created by Hindu organizations, Jason, in Pakistan and India contains both the urine of camels
and
the urine of cows.
Wait a minute, but Bishop, I thought in India, bovines, cows, it's sacred. They're not eating them.
It's sacred, but the thing is, they're drinking that which is sacred to treat people of the coronavirus.
But why are they using urine in a drink? That sounds disgusting and dangerous.
Yes, the urine of camels and the urine of cows in the third world, especially in India and Pakistan. And I'm not talking about Indian people, disrespectfully, and Pakistani people. I tell people, look it up. The urine of camels and the urine of cows is supposed to be an antioxidant agent. Yikes. But they're putting this urine in Mellow Yellow, in Mountain Dew drinks. Now, I'm not saying here in the United States, but in India, the satellite corporations, okay, of Mountain Dew and mellow yellow in India and Pakistan is filled with the urine of camels and cows. Jason, just like MRC5, per C6, DTP vaccinational process,
Wow.
including human embryonic cells. There you go, 293. They're
Unbelievable.
doing this also in Iran.
Holy
Yes.
cow.
Look at that. Show that. Stay right there with that, Jason. If you can go
Yeah.
back, there you go. Cow urine,
Amazing.
soft drink. Yeah, it's amazing. Gojai. Now, Gojai, Gaujai, or some spell it Jal, is one of the gods in Hindu mythology, the god that purifies. So then, this is the total manipulation of reality, time, and probability through the soft drink industry and through the American, Pakistani, and Indian food supply. The entire, and I hope and pray, because a lot of my staff members, they've been sending these videos of my teachings to the president. So I'm praying that President Trump, when you get reelected, please change the entire food supply of America, including soft drinks. 75% of the bottled waters, Jason, that we think are spring waters, they come from city tap waters.
Yeah.
It's city water in the guise, the manipulation of reality, time, and probability, in the guise of there's no springs in New York City. Come on. See, this is a lie, Jason, because Coca-Cola, oh, that's an excellent link there, Jason. Coca-Cola, okay, and Mountain Dew and Mellow Yellow, including Dr. Pepper, which contained cocaine going back decades, including Coca-Cola. They came up with the concept, okay, if people don't want to buy our products because they're drinking tap water from the sink, then we're going to create bottled water. Jason, this is not just the manipulation of reality. This is the manipulation of perceived reality, and through the manipulation of the manipulation of people. It's layered.
Now,
Now
just
there
real
is,
quick on this,
go
Bishop, because
ahead,
this is
take your
pretty
time.
shocking. I had understood that things like Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper were originally introduced as like elixirs, like almost like a medical thing.
Yes.
And the caffeine and the cocaine and all that. Cocaine was not illegal at the time that it was in Coca-Cola. So these were almost more medical products than recreational drinks like they are right now. But I mean, that is bizarre that people would want to drink urine. It causes me to think, Bishop, about the the fake story where they were saying that Donald Trump was urinating on or being urinated on or whatever they claim happened in Russia. What is it with urine? Is there some spiritual like hex or something having to do with urine?
That's an excellent question. Now, remember, some months ago, we talked about the eugenics. You and I talked about eugenics and in connection to identity politics. And then going back, and also we talked about Dianetics, whatnot, and L. Ron Hubbard. But going back into history, urine was thought to be a pre-oxidant, an oxidation, an antioxidant agent that were purified the bloodline of a particular people. So witches and warlocks were used urine as a point of contact. Let's say if the person dies, this is in India and Pakistan, within Hinduism. So if the person dies, they will extract urine before that person goes into a full-fledged, okay, death, okay, before the body begins to rot, okay. So then they would extract, this is sick, they would extract urine from a dead body and then present it to the gods of within Hindu religion as a point of contact to resurrect that person's soul. Jason, again, and I'm not talking about Indian people and Pakistani people. This fascination with urine is so astounding that urine is also used as a point of contact in invoking spirits, the urine of an individual. This is what we call the manipulation of reality, time, and probability through not just the manipulation of perceived manipulation, where black people are being told a lie that white people are the devil. But there's also another psyop below that, below the manipulation of reality, the manipulation of perceived reality, and the manipulation of manipulation, which represents, Jason, the manipulation of conceived control. What are you saying, Bishop? The manipulation of conceived control. So the deep state is allowing Black America to think that they control their own destiny, Jason. Well, look at the life of Kobe Bryant, a multimillionaire. See, there's a difference between a billionaire and a millionaire. There's a difference between a person that is wealthy versus a person that is rich. Those NBA players are rich, Jason, but they're not wealthy because they're controlled through what we call the manipulation of perceived control. They're
Bishop,
controlled on a plantation. Go right ahead, Jason.
I've just discovered that Google is racist because I put in Kobe Bryant and Bill Gates, and it's giving me Marquez Brownlee, who is obviously a different guy.
See, oh, wow. Ooh. Oh, Jason. That's
Why do they think
look
he
at.
has anything to do with Kobe Bryant? He's a tech blogger, not
Yes,
a basketball
yes.
player.
And is Kobe Bryant even dead? Now, of course, in that, there's probably a 99.9% chance he is dead. But Jason, that 1%, I would not be surprised if he's alive. And if he's alive through a witness protection program, like a lot of people, Black people think he is, including Tupac Shakur or Bruce Lee, there's a reason for that. Okay. So then, this an excellent link there, Jason. The manipulation of perceived control. Black people thinking that they are in control of their destiny. That stems from the manipulation, Jason, of reality, time, and probability through the layers of the manipulation of perceived reality, the manipulation of manipulation from the core of what we call the manipulation of conceived control or perceived control. That's the manipulation of a people who don't know who they are, Jason. Now, there's another term. Now, we talked about this term, pixel, and I'm about done because we're past our time. So the term pixel is an algorithm that authenticates the manipulation of the reality of that photo, okay? So next week, we're going to get into the manipulation of this reality. Now, allow me to say this, and I'm done here today, Jason. Volume 1 of the manipulation, man, I'm excited about this new series. The manipulation of reality, time, and probability. Now, this term Enochian. Now, Jason, when we break down schematically this term Enochian, notice the 4 letters Naki, N-A-K-I. Now, that term Anaki or Enochian, Naki, is a transliteration, Jason, into a Persian term, get this, called CERN.
CERN?
Yes, CERN, capital C.
The Hadron Collider?
Yes, CERN, capital C-E-R-N. That deep state scientific corporation that was created by the deep state going back to 1954, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. They got that name from the Persian term of Naki or Enochian. It's CERN. CERN is a UN observer. Wait a minute, what does that mean, Jason? They are a UN observer through witchcraft, through the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. But the first Secretary General or the first Director General of CERN was a man by the name of Felix Bloch, who was a Rothschild agent that was assigned by the Rothschild family out of London, England in 1953 to go help lay the foundation in October of 54 to create CERN. This European Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN, is the Persian interpretation of the term Naki or Nakian or Anakian. Incubi, incubation, succubi, succubation. Anunnakian or Naki is the Persian word for CERN. Oh, Jason, in my conclusion here, now that term Anakian also, Jason, is also it goes into a second Persian interpretation. This term is called agoy, capital A-G-O-Y. That term agoy that's connected to both Anakian into the language of the Anakians called the language of Gaia, G-A-I-A. It means the algorithm of a corporate sick body. Oh my God. Agoy is a Persian term meaning a bodily corporate movement of a sick body or corporation that becomes transhumanal and thereby convalescent, where the body becomes a letter of the occult or an occultic letter. Where the term agoy, because Hebrew is written from right to left, that term agoy is revealed as the word yoga. So yoga or agoy is the concept of the bodily corporate movement of the individual, of a sick corporate body movement that becomes transhumanal, okay, convalescent through shaking, where the body becomes a letter of the occult or an occultic letter. That's yoga. So the term yoga or agoy is also connected to the term ahoy, which is a maritime word. Ahoy or ships, maritime, or chips ahoy, like the cookie. Jason, everything has a demonic root, and that's the end today of volume 1 of a long series entitled The Manipulation of Reality, Time, and Probability. And I thank you, my friend.
Well, we'll return, of course, with part 2 next week. But just real quick, Bishop, I think I might touch a nerve with you right now, because when you brought up CERN, you know, I had a previous co-host who was very interested in these large hadron colliders. We even went to Fermi Labs in Chicago. And I don't know if you know this, but there is a large hadron collider in Lead, South Dakota, that's involved in an experiment where they are shooting neutrinos through the crust of the Earth from South Dakota, where they are detected at Fermi Labs in Chicago. And the really interesting thing about Fermi Labs, it was created by this guy, Enrico Fermi. He was a very celebrated nuclear physicist, and Wikipedia tells us that he was the creator of the first nuclear reactor. He was also involved in theoretical physics, particle physics, and the design of these particle accelerators. His stated goal, because, you know, one of the things that I love about your lectures, Bishop, is that when they start off, you could make a statement that the average person might look at on its face and say, well, that's ridiculous. Yes. But then when you look at the details, it's all there.
It's all there.
This guy right here, this Italian physicist, he's a naturalized American, but Italian descent, he came up with the idea that these particle accelerators could be used to open a man-made singularity through which he wanted to communicate with extraterrestrials. And he was very involved in the occult with Jack Parsons, Jack
Yes.
Parsons was at JPL doing rocket
Yes.
science stuff, and he was also friends with what's his name from Scientology.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wife swapping with that guy.
Wife swapping. And
Crazy.
also, it was crazy. And Jack Parsons, along with L. Ron Hubbard, who was a known racist. And for some reason, I don't know why, that Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam sold the Nation of Islam for $3 million, and they were denied to their dying breath. So that's another topic for another day. But Jack Parsons, out of Pasadena, California, well connected to L. Ron Hubbard, okay, also were practitioners of invoking spirits through urine.
Oh,
I mean, yes. And so they will also invocate, okay, or call on the spirit called Heterio, Hetero, which the term Heterio is also one of the names of the fallen angels. That's in Maccabees, one of the 45 lost books, Maccabees volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4. But Heterio, being one of the fallen angels, and going back to Genesis 1 and 2, that term, the Persian term for darkness, is stated being. This is where we get the conception of deep state from the state of its deepness, deep state. But that term darkness, from a Greek standpoint, also reveals the word heterio. So if any one of your listeners, if you guys type in Hetero, or just type in words that begin with the term heterio, it will give you hundreds of medical and scientific words that go back to its origin, to both the serpent, the fall of Adam, and the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. Like heteropaternal superfecundation, okay? Or hetero phron, or what we call phrenology, or heterodoxy, Jason. And one more thing, there's a term called heterokaryosis, Karyosis. It is the condition of having two genetically different nuclei in the cytoplasm of a fungus, okay? It also represents the total manipulation of plant life. This is where we get the female Anakian word, poison ivy. Oh man, I wish I had time. Poison ivy was not just a name of a Marvel DC comic character. Poison ivy was the name of a female fallen angel in Genesis 6, but that was taken out by the Vatican, right? As part of the extraction of those 45 books, because the deep state did not want you and I to know the truth. Poison ivy is the manipulator of plant life. And that is volume 1 of the manipulation of reality, time, and probability. Mind-blowing.
One last quick thing along the lines of the fallen angels, Bishop. Are you aware of the CBS television show about Jack Parsons? It's called Strange Angel.
No, and this is what channel? Where's that located? What channel?
Well, CBS All Access, which is the paid streaming service of CBS, which is the same channel that the news service that the president of television's father worked for. I wonder if Strange Angel has won any Emmy Awards.
Isn't that interesting? These connections here, because Jason, manipulation is so layered, what you and I call the departmentalization of darkness. So you and I would just, for the first hour and 47 minutes, were unlayering, peeling back one layer of a time of this manipulation. You and I are living a present day Truman Show, where 7.7 billion people are remotely controlled by a small cabal. And my question is, and I'm done, how can so few deep state provocators rule so many people, Jason? How can a small group of Satanists, demonists, okay, witches and warlocks of the 13 families of the deep state, from the Rothschilds to the Rockefellers, how can so few people rule so many people? Now, in the case of Black people, How can so few people rule so many Black people? That's the manipulation of reality, time, and probability through the psyop of the manipulation of perceived reality and the manipulation of perceived control, making Black people think that they control their own destiny, and they don't, Jason. And this is that manipulation, that deception of reality, time, and probability, okay? That's rooted going back to the serpent in Genesis chapter 3. Mind-blowing information today, my friend.
Yeah, excellent episode, Bishop. And I mean, I don't think it's limited to Black people, because if we
No.
look around New York
Yeah.
City, it gives me the feeling that none of us control our own destiny. They can destroy the most powerful city in the world in basically 6 months. But we'll have a lot more to discuss next week, I'm sure. I want to make sure that people know they can hear Bishop Gaiters on liferadionj.com. You can tune in to 92.9 FM if you're within the broadcast range, but the website is a great way to hear the Bishop. You can also support Bishop's Global Spiritual Revolution by going to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group. And this is really important. See, Bishop, the other thing that I think television in general doesn't like about what we're doing here is that we're trying to move people away from this model of what they perceive as free television viewing. It's not free. Television shows cost millions and millions of dollars to make, to market, to broadcast to people. So it's being paid for by somebody. And just like you would be unlikely to get into a stranger's car if they offered to take you out to dinner at some nice restaurant, you'd probably think there must be some trick up this person's sleeve. Why would someone buy me free dinner at a nice restaurant? Unless they wanted to do something to me, to trick me, to take advantage of me. This is what's happening when you're watching television for free. You have advertisers who have an agenda. They're buying you the lunch, the dinner, the free whatever, but what do they have in store? What Bishop and I have done is we've put together a program here that is sponsored by viewers because it's created for viewers, and we don't want big corporate sponsors to come in here. I mean, if Nabisco wrote a check to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group, I don't think they'd want to hear stories about Chips Ahoy unless we were telling you that they're delicious. So for the amount of money that viewers choose to sponsor the show for, they make sure that we are not influenced by outside corporate sponsorship or money like that. And I think it's a powerful system, Bishop. I think we're getting a lot more people around to this way of thinking, and I think it threatens the very financing of television that's been around since the dawn of the technology.
And can I say something quick? You hit a nerve with me, Jason. And I thank God for you, my friend. Any one of your listeners, when you go to the supermarket, to the grocery store, and when they package some cookies, whatever, okay, it says no added sugar. It doesn't mean that the product doesn't have any sugar. It's got sugar, but no added. See, that's manipulation, Jason. That is the manipulation of the reality of the consumer, the manipulation of the time of the consumer, and the manipulation of the probability of the consumer. They want to depopulate us through manipulation. No added sugar. Okay, that's a deception. So to your listeners, when you go to the supermarket today, remember that when it says no added sugar or no added additives, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any additives or sugar, but there's none added to it of what that product already has.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, they also say things like no hydrogenated oils, which is a good thing to not have in the food, but it's amazing to list what's not in it. I mean, are there bicycle pumps in it? No bicycle pumps. Oh, good. I think I'll eat that. Well, Bishop.
Let me eat that. Yeah, alkali. Remember, what is alkali? It's battery acid. So you're eating battery acid and you're drinking battery acid. That's alkali. Thank you so much, Jason.
Well, we'll be back next week, Bishop Gaiters. Thank you for joining me, and thanks to everybody who makes these shows possible by becoming sponsors. And stay tuned. I'll be back later on today. Have a great afternoon, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you, Jason.